Speaking of the World Cup of Amateur Drivers, well, that will start on Thursday at Alexandra Park. The market is out. We'll look at that shortly. But we're going to hear from Steve Phillips. Johnny Bright caught up with him to find out how he got involved with amateur driving.
Well, about 12 years ago, I'd had some experience overseas seeing the amateur drivers in Europe and America and thought it was an appropriate thing to start back in New Zealand. So we've been going now for 10 years. Anne and myself really got it started. Huge support from Gavin Cook down south and support from right across the industry. So we've had quite good growth in that time, and we now have around 100 amateur drivers driving regularly. And I must admit, I'm looking forward to the World starting on the 19th of January.
What can you tell us, Steve, about the drivers that are venturing all the way over here?
They're pretty good. The European and American drivers tend to drive against professionals fairly regularly. There's a guy from Germany who's the current European champion, Marian Tux, who has had 580 wins. Wow. So it puts him right up there with some of our professional drivers. Yeah. The French guys had 270, so they're pretty well qualified.
Yeah. Tell us about your past experiences in the World Cup.
I've had one go. It was pretty much as soon as we'd started amateur driving in New Zealand, I drove in Belgium, and that was a real eye-opener for me because, again, I was driving against Americans and Europeans who had been doing it for a long time, and I loved the experience. Finished last of 12, but it was worthwhile.
Yeah. Tell us, is there any more pressure added, the fact that this championship is in New Zealand this year?
Well, quite a few of the local amateurs are putting the pressure on, saying that I should have a huge advantage driving on home soil. Yeah. A lot of the European drivers will never have driven on grass, for example, and we drive there at Banks Peninsula on the 22nd. Yeah. And also the style of driving we have is quite different from the European and American driving, where they give each other a lot more room. And in Europe, a lot of the countries don't allow whips, so it'll be quite a shock for some of these drivers coming to New Zealand.
And are you looking forward to showing the visiting drivers the harness racing industry here in New Zealand?
Yep, I certainly am. We have got a really strong industry here, as we've seen from some of the horses that have raced in Europe, our trotters, a lot of our pacers that have gone to America. So it's going to be fun showing the people around. They get also to do a bit of touristy stuff. They're going out on jet boat rides and a cruise on the harbour in Auckland and a few dinners. So I'm sure they'll have a good time in the short time they're here.
I'm sure they'll be well looked after as well. Steve Phillips, the godfather, the man that started amateur driving here in New Zealand. Rick Burnett, actually the reigning New Zealand champion, but unable to qualify for this series. So Steve Phillips will represent New Zealand here with pride at $6.50 at the moment. Craig, bringing you in here, you were quite keen on Damien Oliver, not to be confused with the jockey, but he's got a very strong book at Alexandra Park.
He has, Jess. 3 or 4 really good chances, the Spaniard. Horses like Dream Chapel, Maiden Splendour, and probably a lesser degree, Praise and Beeble. 320, I thought actually an attractive prices. Drives at Mochikarara, not too bad either. So he'd be my early tip, Jess. I was having to back one. Definitely option 193, number 10, Damien Oliver.